He was the heart, the co-founder, the voice behind the music that defined a generation. But after Glenn Frey's death, something broke in the Eagles. For decades, Glenn's voice soared through stadiums, his songwriting shaping the sound of an era. Take It Easy, Lion Eyes, Tequila Sunrise, all carried the unmistakable touch of a man who understood both melody and meaning. But when he passed in 2016, it wasn't just the loss of a bandmate. It was the loss of glue that held fractured egos together. Now, behind the curtain of one of America's most legendary rock bands, a bitter conflict brews. What began as a tribute tour has morphed into something murkier. Questions over legacy, control, and who gets to carry the Eagles' torch have sparked tension. Some call it loyalty. Others call it betrayal. What's clear is this. The music may live on, but the harmony behind it may be gone forever. Glenn Frey wasn't just a founding member of the Eagles. He was the Eagles in many ways. Co-writing timeless classics like Lion Eyes, Take It to the Limit, and Desperado with Don Henley, Frey shaped the sound, the soul, and the swagger of the band. He was the voice behind the smooth, the grit beneath the harmony, and the architect of that California cool that made the Eagles more than just a rock band. They became a state of mind. But when Frey passed away in 2016, the silence he left behind didn't last long. Because legacies like his don't fade. They echo. In the years since, the Eagles have continued, with Glenn's son Deacon stepping in and country legend Vince Gill lending his voice. It wasn't imitation. It was tribute, a living bridge between what was and what still is. Still, for many fans and bandmates alike, there's a space on that stage that can never quite be filled. As Henley once said, the bond we had can't be replaced. But the music? That lives on. That's how Glenn would have wanted it. In a move that surprised fans and critics alike, the band brought in Glenn's son, Deacon Frey, to help carry on his father's legacy. Alongside country star Vince Gill, the new Eagles soared once more. The decision seemed poetic, a son stepping into his father's boots, guitar in hand, legacy in heart. And for many, it was healing, a tribute, a passing of the torch. But not everyone saw it as a tribute. Whispers grew louder. Was this heartfelt or strategic? Some fans, and even some insiders, wondered, was this about honoring Glenn or cashing in on his absence? The move split the fan base. To some, it was a beautiful continuation of the Eagles' story. To others, it felt like rewriting the final chapter Glenn never got to finish. Music remained, but the meaning was murkier. Was Deacon Frey truly stepping in, or just filling a void the band didn't want to face? Still, night after night, as Take It Easy rang out over sold-out arenas, the question lingered. Is legacy preserved or repackaged? Tensions between members of the Eagles are nothing new. Don Felder was fired in 2001 and still bears the scars. But after Glenn's death, disputes over his legacy reignited old rivalries. Sources suggest some surviving members disagree over everything, from the set list to the story being told. Felder, who once helped shape the band's signature sound, has long claimed he was treated like a hired hand rather than an equal. His 2008 memoir Heaven and Hell didn't hold back, and Don Henley wasn't amused. There's the music, one insider says, and then there's the myth. And everyone wants to control both. Henley, ever the perfectionist, is said to be fiercely protective of Glenn Frey's image and the band's narrative. Felder, meanwhile, has pushed for transparency and recognition, especially for his creative contributions to hits like Hotel California. The result? A Cold War under warm spotlights, silent stares backstage, tense negotiations, and a legacy constantly being rewritten, not just by history, but by those who lived it. For fans, it's bittersweet. The music remains timeless. The drama? Sadly, just as eternal. In 2022, Deacon Frey quietly left the touring band. No press conference. No farewell. His exit raised eyebrows. Was it burnout or was something deeper? Some fans called it respectful, a silent bow from a son who had stepped in when the band needed him most. Others saw the silence as telling. Deacon had filled enormous shoes after his father Glenn Frey's death, carrying not just the music, but the weight of legacy. He honored his dad beautifully, one insider said. But there comes a time when you ask, am I doing this for me or for him? Behind the scenes, whispers spoke of creative differences, personal exhaustion, and a yearning to forge his own path. And while the Eagles continued to tour, a space on stage and in the hearts of fans felt noticeably empty. In the end, Deacon's departure wasn't a scandal. It was something quieter, more human, the complicated end of a chapter written in the shadow of a legend. Glenn Frey's legacy is bigger than any one band member. But now, as the remaining Eagles continue to tour and reshape the band's identity, fans are left asking, would Glenn be proud or heartbroken? He wasn't just a founding member. He was the voice, the architect of the Eagles' California sound, the driving force behind their soaring harmonies and biting lyrics. From Take It Easy to Tequila Sunrise, Glenn's fingerprints are all over the soundtrack of a generation. His absence isn't just felt, it echoes. The band's decision to carry on, especially with Glenn's son Deacon stepping in, has sparked passionate debate. Some see it as a heartfelt tribute, a way to keep Glenn's spirit alive on stage. Others see it as a betrayal of what the band once stood for: unity, authenticity, finality. Yet, one thing remains clear: the music lives on. And maybe that's the answer. Not pride, not heartbreak, but continuation, the kind Glenn himself might have insisted on. Because legacies don't die, they evolve. The Eagles were always a band of beautiful contradictions: harmony and ego, brotherhood and betrayal. And Glenn Frey? He was both the glue and the spark that could set it all ablaze. He was the architect of so many timeless melodies, and also the enforcer when tempers flared. The kind of leader who could unify or divide, depending on the day. Now, with his voice gone, the silence speaks louder than ever. The riffs still echo. The harmonies still soar. But something's missing: a gravity, a grit, a presence you can't replace. As fans, we're left with a haunting question. Should we be proud of what's endured or heartbroken by what was lost? Maybe the answer is both, because that's what great legacies are made of. Not perfection, but passion. Not just the songs they sang, but the stories behind the silence.